let me talk about it. So what is function prototyping? Just a second. So what is function prototyping? See, especially in C++ or any object-oriented programming language. So what we will do is we are going to define the function, but we are not going to write the body of the function. So whenever you define a function without the body of the function, then it is called function prototyping. So technically, if you want to say function heading without the body of the function, writing the function heading without the body of the function, it is called function prototype. So these functions will have the data types, or it is also not data types exactly. So the functions will have the return type, and also it will have the names and argument types which we are going to use. So when we see example, you can understand. So just try to understand the definition. So a function with heading without the body of the function. So when you write a function without the body of the function, then it is called as function prototype. So how to write the function prototype in C++? So first we need to write the return type of the function, whether it is integer, character, float, double. So what is the return type? Then the name of the function, followed by the arguments list, followed by the arguments list. So the best part of the function prototyping is you no need to mention the parameters list. You no need to say whether it is A, B, C, X, Y, Z, P, Q, or nothing. You just mention the data type of each member. You just mention the data type of each member and also return type of the function. So what is the return type we are going to use? So we will see the example. So before seeing the example, again, I'm just repeating for the people, those who are joining now. Function prototyping is nothing but writing the function heading without the body of the function. Writing the function heading without the body of the function, it is called function prototyping. Writing the function heading without the body of the function, it is called writing function prototype. So how to write it? The syntax is return type followed by the function name and the arguments list. Return type, function name, argument list. The key point you should remember is no need to specify the variables or no need to specify the variable names or parameters in the list. If you specify data type, that is. Now we will see an example. So this is the example of function prototyping. This is the example of function prototyping. So the return type of the function is integer. The function name is add, and we are going to pass two variables or two parameters of type int. So this is how we are going to write the function prototyping. So when you indicate the prototyping, you can put the semicolon at the end because we are just defining the function. We are just defining the function. Nowhere we are using that particular function. So function will be used later. So we are just defining the function. That's why we are going to put the semicolon. Right now, let's see an example. So this is the example. This is the example what we have. So I'm just calling iostream.h. That is my header file. So using namespace, as I said yesterday, what it is, and we have seen practical example why we use this one. Then I'm calling the function. Now I'm calling the function called add, which is of data type or return type integer followed by two parameters of data type int and int. Now you start with your main function. So when you call this function, then you are going to call the actual parameters. Now here I'm calling add function. So the actual parameters are num1 and num2. So what is the data type of this actual parameters? Because it is already predefined in the function prototype, it is going to be integer. Then, so when you call this function, so we are going to write the body of this function. See here it is function prototyping. This is the calling of the function. This is the main function or the function where we are going to write the body of the function. If you see here, I have not written any body. So here I'm just calling with the actual parameters. So here I'm going to write the body of the function. So while writing the body of the function, for this particular actual parameters, we are going to call the another parameters or other parameters, which is called as formal parameters. parameters. See, you need to remember three definitions here. The first one is function prototyping. So writing the header of the function without the body is called as function prototyping. In function prototyping, we'll mention the return type of the function as well as data type of the parameters. And we are not least bothered about what type of variables we are going to use, whether it is A, B, C, P, Q, or X, Y, Z, anything. And so when you call the function, which is already defined, so we are going to call with the help of the variables, which is called as actual parameters, Here, for actual parameters, you no need to mention the data type because it's already predefined. Then, so when you call this function, so we are going to write the function body. So where we are going to execute actual function. So these parameters, where we are calling these parameters are called as formal parameters, right? So this is how the function prototyping is going to be. Now, can any one of you tell me what is the advantage of doing function prototyping? What is the main advantage of function prototyping? Yes, if we write directly functions or if we do function prototyping, what is the advantages? What is the main advantage of doing function prototyping? If I define function first, then call that function, write the actual parameters, formal parameters, what is the main advantage here? No idea. Fine. We are going to see what is the main advantage. So the main and first foremost advantage is we can handle the function properly because we are defining the return type. We can or the compiler can easily understand whether the output is going to be an integer or float point number or double or long int. So which is not possible in general functions. So there it might produce any kind of result. The compiler has to process it and then get the output. So here the main advantage is the compiler can understand what is the exact return value of a function. And second advantage is correct numbers or correct parameters and type of parameters will be passed to a function. Because first we defined it, we know that only two parameters are there of type integer. The compiler can easily allocate memory for that. So that the memory wastage won't be there. So this when I say advantage of function prototyping for us, it's not for us, it's for the system, right? Because whenever you write the program, two things you should worry about it. So one is called time complexity, second one is called space complexity. See, time complexity is nothing but within how much time your program is going to produce the result. Say for example, if you are writing a program, quicksort or mudsort, if it is producing result within 13 seconds, and say Tina is writing same program which is producing results in 10 seconds. So obviously the program which is written by Tina will be the best program compared to the program which I have written, because the program I have written is taking 13 seconds, whereas what Tina has written is 10 seconds. Now take the same scenario, the program which I have written is taking 13 seconds. The program which is written by Tina is taking 12 or 13 seconds, sorry, 10 seconds. But the memory occupied by my program is just 1 MB. 1 MB. The memory occupied by the Tina's program is 3 MB. Hope you're getting what I'm telling. So my time consumption for execution is 13 seconds. Tina's is 10 seconds. Memory coming to my program is 1 MB. Tina's program is 3 MB. Now, which one to consider? Whether my program or Tina's program?
Yours, sir.
Why? Why so? Why not Tina's?
Because Like the space which is allocated for yards, like memory space is less, no sir. So
But time complexity is more, no?
it is about only 3 second delay, not more than that.
No, 3 seconds also it's delay, right? I'll tell you one example so that you can understand. See, there is a supercomputer in China, which is with 30,000 cores. You know, like what is core and all. I don't want to explain much about it. Like we have i3, i5. i3 comes with 4 cores, i7 comes with 8 cores, etc. etc. So when they tested this machine, which is in China, so to execute the, as you know, the best sorting algorithm is quicksort. So when they executed quicksort program, so they got output within 0.1803 seconds. 0.1803 seconds. And the same time, the supercomputer which we have in India, which is there in CDAC, Bangalore, which is developed by CDAC office in Bangalore. So same program has taken 0.1703 seconds. 0.1703 seconds. It's a like very nanoseconds, like fraction of seconds difference. But still, the supercomputer, best supercomputer is China only. So see, when it comes to time complexity and space complexity, especially in the real-time scenarios, every second counts. Every second counts. So coming to the example which I have given now, so personally, if you ask me which one is better, whether the program written by me or written by China, both of them are good because one is giving best time complexity, one is giving best space complexity. So both parameters are very important. So depending on the scenario, depending on the application where we are going to use, we need to consider. But the best part is whenever you are writing the program, think about time and space complexity. So how to reduce time complexity, how to reduce space complexity, probably my teacher might have explained in C programming. So it's very simple, like avoid looping. So if it is possible, don't use looping. Avoid functions until unless it is necessary, right? Avoid unnecessary statements, dead statements. We'll call them as dead statements, right? So this is another important question. Please remember in your interview, how to reduce time and space complexity. So the first and foremost thing you should understand is avoiding the looping program. Try to avoid number of loops, either while loop, for loop, do while loop, whatever loop it is. Try to avoid the loops and try to avoid dead statements. What is dead statement? The statement which is not required. If it is there in the program, try to remove that statement. See, sometimes knowingly or unknowingly, we will be keeping some statements which are not really required, right? Then third statement, try to optimize your program. Say for example, int a, int b, int c. Instead, you can write int a, comma b, comma c. See, memory space is going to be same, but the time consumption to execute this statement will be less, right? So then int sum, so no need. So how many variables you want to define? You just define all the variables and keep it in a single stretch. So like this, we have some steps. So we have total 7 to 9 steps which we need to follow in order to reduce this time and space complexity. Probably in data structures, this is one of the important thing which we need to consider, and also in your design and analysis of algorithms which you are studying now, either DA or ADA. So there you will study about it. There you will study about it, how to reduce time complexity, space complexity, what is that, how to do that, and what are the methods. There also you'll study about methods like big O, omega, small o. So many things, right? So that is not our cup of coffee. Let the DA teacher will take about it. So my question here is, so whenever you are using this function prototyping, so we could able to reduce the space complexity issues. So these are the two important things which you need to remember. As the return type of the function is known, the compiler can handle it very clearly, and also the number of arguments, type of the arguments are known, so it's very easy for compiler to perform the next task, right? So this is where the function prototyping will be advantage, right? Suppose if we are not using the function prototyping, then what are the problems we are going to face? Because when you are telling something is advantageous, so you need to see about the cons also. Pros we have seen, cons also we have seen. See, if we are not using the prototyping, then the compiler will be always under assumption that might be the output is integer, might be output is float might be output is double. So that means in the absence of prototype, the compiler has to assume what going to be the return value, right? And also, if the variables or the values which we have sent, there might be a possibility that there might be you will get incompatible issues. Say for example, you call two variables, but you are calling, sending three variables, four variables. You called integers, you are sending float point. So function doesn't know, it will just process it. So where you are going to get the error, right? So see, in a function I called two variables. I have not mentioned what type of data type it is. So I just passed it. So what is the compiler work? It will just process it. You will get the errors. You will get the final output as a error. So the main advantage of function prototyping is it will guarantee that it is going to protect from the errors which is going to come because of the incorrect function calls, which is going to come because of the incorrect function call. Now we will see a little bit about it. Okay, so this is an example which we have seen previously. The function prototype also holds add function accepts two parameters. If program fails to provide such parameters, compile detects an error. So once you define it, if you're not able to send that many parameters, or if you're not able to send proper parameters, it will detect an error. So fine, in the initial stages getting an error, it's not a problem. But in C++, there is a concept called type conversion. So here in the function prototyping, it will also do the type conversion process whenever it is required. So type conversion is allowed in C++ function prototyping. In C also we have seen type conversion. So what is type conversion? Anyone? In C you have seen type conversion. No? What is type conversion and how it is done? Yes? Why all are dull today? They are going to impose lockdown. No, we cannot go outside. So that's why everyone is thinking about it. Or still still on the bed, asking mom bed coffee. Yes. So what is type conversion? Bhuvan, Gaurav, Kavana, Arshita.
The conversion of one data type to another.
Very good. So it's very simple. The name itself is telling type conversion, converting one data type into the another data type. So good, Sumit. So what is the condition when you want to convert one data type to another data type? What is the condition we have? What is the condition we have? Yes, Mansi, Bhuvan, Pujita, Abhishek. What is the condition for type conversion? Let me put question like this. Can we convert the higher level data type into lower level data type? Can we
Yes,
convert
sir.
higher level to lower level? Sure.
Yes.
It's possible like to change between, for example, between character and int, like and vice versa.
So both are possible, higher to lower, lower to higher. Okay. Any other answer? So your friends are telling higher to lower, lower to higher is possible.
Sir, higher to lower it can be converted, sir.
Lower to higher we cannot convert. So means int to float I cannot convert, but float can be converted into int. Okay, let us see. I'll give 5 minutes time. So not 5 minutes. So take time. Tomorrow class I'll ask again same question, because type conversion. What is type conversion? What are the conditions? We'll see that. So now let me just go with the type conversion here. We don't need to worry about in C++. C we have condition, but here we don't have any condition. So function prototyping also helps in the type conversion whenever it is required. Now we'll see the typical example of how the function prototyping is going to work. So you can see here, this is a header file. This is a function prototyping, what we have defined as int add of int comma int. So I have created three variables x, y, z. So z equals to add of x comma y. So where I'm calling the function call. So it will go here, it will process. This is a typical example of function prototyping. typical example of function prototype. Now here comes the problem actually. Now we will see what is the problem we are going to get, or what is the problem we are going to identify. So first we'll go with the main function. See, actually this is how it will be. Any function call or any activity when you call or when you define, especially in C++, because it is object oriented, first we'll execute the sub function, then we'll come for the main function. Now, so yeah, some answer with some message or something. Someone is waiting. No, I'm getting some pop-ups. Okay. Fine. So what will happen is when you are executing these things separately, when you are executing each and every function separately, then you will never and ever get the errors. See here, what I have done is I have called the main function. I have created called the variable called x. Sorry, I've called a variable called x, and I'm calling a function called test. So this test function executed in a separate program. Right? So here I'm creating one structure and I'm calling the test method here. I'm passing the parameters and I'm executing it. Fine. So somehow I'll get the execution, but I'll end up with a wrong output. That is different thing. I'll end up with a wrong output because there is no correlation between these two things. So I'll end up with a wrong output. The program will get executed. You will get the wrong results at the time of execution or at the time of running the program. So this is the problem what we are going to get when you write individual functions like this, because when the compiler sees this, whether it needs to pass the integer or float or character, it doesn't know. Just simply it will assume that okay, something, let us go. So it will call that function. So here, instead of passing the variables, we are calling a structure. Through structure, I am passing different types of data types of variables. Then I am going to execute this. Then the results will come here. So compiler still under confusion whether the exact results we got it or not. Somehow it will execute, it will send the results. Somehow it will execute and it will send the results. So this is where the function prototyping is very much essential. This is where the function prototyping is very much essential. But let us assume if the test is a function prototype, if I define it before itself, so it will be having clear idea whether the return type will be integer, float, character, or whatever it is. Then based on that, it will going to execute in other programs and you will get the exact results. So that means in order to avoid the errors which we are going to get at the runtime, we are going to create the function prototyping. So that is what we are telling here. So what will happen is, so when function prototyping is not used, compiler will be always under assumption, okay, this might be the result. This might be integer type, this might be character type, this might be some other type, right? Then whatever is execution, it will do it, it will produce the results. But at the end of the day, the results might not be correct. Say for example, you may ask question, sir, you are telling that, let's say if I am defining function prototype as integer, the return type should be integer. But in the next program, instead of passing integer variables, if I am passing the float or if I am passing the double, then how it is going to treat? So that is where type conversion will come into the picture. So in C++, function prototyping will do the automatic type conversion wherever it is required. Say for example, in this example, if I give the return type as integer, but I have passed the variables as double. So then it will convert into double, then into double to integer, then it will process and it will give the appropriate results. But here one more thing you should understand is there is a possibility that you will get the wrong output because integer is converting into double or double is converting into integer. But you will get mere equal input. Sometimes you will get, say for example, if I am passing integer, but here in the function I am passing character. Then the problem arises, right? The output will be wrong. But still, most of the times C++ will follow the type conversion perfectly and it will produce the result. Right? Say, take an example, real-time example, because this is a very common thing which we will come across. Right? Say for example, whenever we are filling some forms, there will be option called enter your age or date of birth. Some people will enter date of birth, some people will enter age, right? And some people will enter in the characters 34, 35 or 21, whatever it is. So now what is going to happen? So because there is a type conversion, then it is going to say, hey, so this is the data entered by the user. So you need to convert like this. So that is what is going to happen in the C++. Now I have one practical question here. See, most of you know we have C, C++, Java, Python. And most of you know C cannot support GUI. That's why we are going for C++ and Java. Now, can any one of you tell me what is the difference between C++ and Java? What is the difference between C++ and Java? We have seen C and Java, like object-oriented and procedure-oriented. When we have C++, why we are going for Java? That means C++ is waste or Java is better. Why? Yes? Or if you know Python, you just compare with Python also. Python also we have object-oriented. Python with object-oriented. There also you can compare. Why, when there is one language, we are going for the next programming language? Any answer? I told you session should be interactive. Let it be very wrong answer, funny answer, no problem.
Sir, C++ can use only compiler, sir, whereas Java can use compiler and interpreter both.
What is the advantage using compiler and interpreter? Might be that is one difference. Technical difference, yes. C++ will come with a compiler, whereas Java will come with both compiler and interpreter, which we will call it as Java virtual machine, which we have seen already. So that is a technical difference. Search Google here. I told you already in the first class itself. Search Google. See, my intention is I want you to learn in the class itself. You search in the Google and tell me, don't worry.
So detection of errors is easier in Java when compared to C++.
Okay, detection of errors is easy in Java compared to C++. Good. Other answers? We have 28, only 27, we got only 2 answers. You want me to call by name? Dharanidhar, Kausalya, Bhumika, Bindushri, Yusra, Abhishek, Ananya, Bhavna, Bhuvan, Gaurav, Pavana, Kausalya, Mansi, Sumit. See, if you don't interact now itself, then how will you interact in your interviews? Yeah. Yes, Mansi, sorry, tell me.
So maybe using different languages might reduce the complexity of the program.
Good. So that is another advantage. So why we will go for new languages is it will reduce the complexity. That is the reason we'll go for it. Good. At least 5 answers.
Sir, compiler is for binary coding, sir. And whereas this interpreter will for source coding.
Okay. Only girls are there, no boys in the class? You need to face the interviews from the strange person. There you need to answer and you will become team leader. There you need to talk to your team. See, next everything is going to be practical only, no theory, like take the textbook, write the exam. Once you join the industry, done. You cannot go back and say once you join the IT company, Mansi cannot go and say, sir, I have some doubt, let me go to textbook and check it and come back. No. Search in the Google, get it clarified there itself and do it. Yes, Gaurav. I think Gaurav is still sleeping. Not in the mood to answer today.
No, sir, I'm thinking, sir.
You're thinking. Good. What about Bhuvan? My
Sir,
question will
Java.
Yeah. Yes, Bhuvan.
Java is more portable.
Portable, good. I'm asking very simple question. I'm not even asking rocket physics. If I ask what is the cryogenic engine, how the cryogenic engine is made, what are the composition of the cryogenic engine when you do the materials, and what type of materials will be used, what is the strength of that material, then it is very difficult. I know we cannot answer because we are from computer science and info science. Overall, there. Ashish is not there today. I think Dharani is on what you call Maunavrata, because today is Tuesday. Otherwise, he'll speak. No, today is not speaking. Sakina is always silent spectator. She'll never speak. Spurti will speak. No, why silent? Suhas. Pariksha. Maulya. All right. Okay. So I'll tell you why most of the time.
Operator overloading.
Sorry.
Java does not support operator overloading.
Good. Java does not support operator overloading, so that is also there. Right. See, this is all the whatever answers you said is 100% correct. I'll accept with everyone, but there are technical differences. But when, as a programmer, when you see conceptual differences, first we'll go for the conceptual differences, then technical. See, technical, obviously there will be difference. Then only we'll go for new language. See, conceptually, if you see, C++ is one of the best languages when you go for the server-side communication. If you want to do kind of communication between two devices, C++ is one of the best programming languages. Cannot be replaced with any other programming language. Today also, if you take bank transactions, the entire programming will be done in C++. Done in C++. C++ is very secure. There is no data leakage. Tight coupling between the applications, either from the front end to back end, or back end to back end, or front end to front end. So when there is a data transfer, when there is a requirement of data security, when there is a requirement of avoiding the data leakage, then we'll go for C++. So whatever C++ will do, same thing will be done by Java also. But still, Java is very good when you want to develop the front end, when you want to do the designing. When you want to do the designing, Java is one of the best languages. But when you want to do the data transfer activities, C++ is the best language. So like this, every language has its own advantages and disadvantages. Every language has its own advantages and disadvantages. Till today, whatever functions we'll write in the C program. Then we'll connect that C program to other languages like C++, Java, Python, Pascal, COBOL, whatever it is. Right? So COBOL is one of the oldest languages. Still, there are companies who are using COBOL. Right? So every language there is an advantage, there is a disadvantage, there is a limitation. So compared to C++ and Java, C++ is very good when you want to do the data transfer activity, providing the security for the data, leakage detection, all those things. Till the example is bank transaction. Most of the bank transaction programs will be done in the C++. And coming to the front-end development or GUI development, Java is one of the best languages, which is very easy also, right? So fine. See, why I took 5 to 10 minutes here is I want to create kind of interest in you, because when you're not speaking in the class, it's very difficult to speak with others. Because tomorrow you need to speak to the students or not students, fellows in the company who is in some other country as well. So I'll tell you 1 minute, one good experience what we had yesterday. So yesterday we had a training between 1 to 5. The person she is sitting in Germany. She is training us. Right? She is training us. Just think, tomorrow once you become a software engineer or programmer or architect, you should speak to the people in different countries. Right? There are participants from China, there are participants from Japan, there are participants from US, India, UK. She need to convince everyone. See, that is how the role of an engineer or architect is going to be. Fine. Let me just come back to this. So function prototyping is possible. It's advantage when you want to avoid the runtime errors, and type conversion is also done in the function prototyping. So this is about the basics of function prototyping, how it would be done. Now we will see what is function overloading. So already we have seen the definition. So function overloading is nothing but when two or more functions will have the same name but different signatures or different parameters, different variables, or whatever you call it. See, name is same. I mean, nomenclature is same. Name is different. So in C++, function can be overloaded if they have the same name, declared in the same scope, have different signatures. It should be declared in the same scope. Same scope is nothing but within the same program, within the same network, within the same application, with the different signatures. So the signature of the functions majorly consists of number, data type, and order of the functions in the parameters list. So how many parameters, data type of the parameters, what is the order of the functions, what is the order of the parameters. So it is a kind of polymorphism. As I said in the polymorphism definition, is many forms. Polymorphism, as someone mentioned, like Bindushri or someone. So function overloading, overriding, both possible in C++, whereas which is not possible in Java. Right. So compiler is going to decide based upon the number of arguments or number of parameters which function to call. Now we will see the best example here. So these are the few examples of your function overloading. So here the function name add itself is fixed. So add is the function name. So here return type is integer, here return type is double. So here we have 2 parameters, here we have 3 parameters. This is called signature. This is called signature. So here we have 3 parameters, 2 parameters. So like this. Say for example, if double add, if you take double add, so int double, double int. So those both are having 2 parameters with a different data type. So compiler now will decide based on the signature which function to call. Which function to call. So it is going to match with that and it is going to call. Suppose if appropriate function is not found, if appropriate function is not found, then it will call the function which is having the same number of parameters. Same number of parameters that we will see in the next example. But this is how the function overloading will be done. Now, so as I said, so if there is no similar function, if there is no similar function, say for example, in the declaration we call it as int add of int a comma b, but here there is no add of 5 comma 10. Instead I have add of 12.5 comma 7.5. Then compiler will call this. Because type conversion is possible in C++. Now, say for example, what is going to be the problem if it calls the similar function, right? So you can see an example here. If we have a function with the characters, but the function call is float, or we have float to double, yes, it's very easy. See, if I have integer, to call the double is easy. If I have float, calling the integer is easy. Float to double is easy. But character to float, there we are going to get the error. Say for example, you can see here example, we have created a function prototype like this, or function overloading like this: long square of long n, double square of double x. Long square of long n, double square of double x. Say for example, if I am calling a function called square of 10. So what is going to happen now? Whether it needs to execute long or double. So there is an ambiguity. Here also you will get the error. At the same time, say for example, if I am calling a function called char square of char n, double square of double n. Now again, if you call this, again the type conversion is going to be a problem. Ambiguity will occur. So there are a couple of scenarios where you will also get the ambiguity. So that in that scenarios, so compiler will throw an error saying that there are multiple functions available, which one to select. Now you can see here an example of function overloading. So we call 2 functions, int add of int comma int, int add of int comma int comma int. So the first prototype will call the add of 10 comma 20. Second one will call the 30, 40, 50. So the first output is going to be 30. Second is going to be 120. So because it is going to call based on the number of parameters and the return type. Right. Now, Let me go back. Yeah. So as I said, based on the signature, the compiler is going to call the which function is having similar kind of parameters, similar number of parameters, it is going to call. That is what we are discussing in this slide. So whatever I explained here, it is discussed here, right? Then say for example, okay, this I am discussing now, default values, formal arguments of the function. Say for example, if in the definition of the function prototyping, if we give default value, what is going to happen? If there is no default value, what is going to happen? See, previously, as I said, when we talked about function prototyping, it is not so mandatory to mention the variable here. If you want to mention, yes, you can mention. There is no harm in that. See here, what we have done is we have called a function called add, where first two parameters are integers. Third parameter is also integer, but the default value of C is 0. Default value of C is 0. Now, when I call the function add of 10, 20, 30, so because I have assigned some value to C here, it will get overwritten. And it will execute this function. Here, there is no parameter C, so directly it will take the default value. If there is a value which is defined, then it will take the overwritten this value and then it will produce the output. So if you see here, the output of the first function will be 60, second one will be 90. That means when you are calling the parameters with the default values, so that is what we are telling here, default values for formal arguments of the function. So it is possible to specify the default values. If no value is passed, so it will override that as a, if the no value is passed, it will consider that as a 0, or whatever value is passed, it will take that as a original value. That means here in this example, we have passed the C value as 30, so it will override the default value, it will take it. If nothing is passed, it will take the value from here. If here also nothing, it will take it as a 0, which is a default value. So you can see one more example. So we have taken int add of int comma int b equals to 0, c equals to 0. That means b is assigned, c also assigned. Now, so initially I'm calling 10, 20, 30, then 40, 50, then comes 60. Now, can any one of you tell me what is the output for this? What is the output for this?
$60, $90, $60.
60, 90, 60, right? So 60, 90, 60, because initially it will calculate this value. So it will override the C default values of B and C. So it will take 60. Then, so here C is not passed, the default value is 0, it will take 90. Here B is not passed, C is not passed, default value is 0, then take the 60. So like this, function overloading can be done with the help of function prototyping. So the one thing you should understand here is function prototyping is going to be very useful when you want to do the function overloading and overwriting. Right? So this is about the function overloading, function prototyping. So any doubts in this? Any questions? I'll be happy to answer. Are you able to follow what I am telling? Or is it rocket physics? Clear? Okay, so I stopped here because the next concept we need to study about the inline functions. So this is one of the important concepts when you go for the interview as well as for the VTU exam. What is inline functions, how the inline functions will be called, all those things. So that we will see in the next class because time is very less. So this is about the function prototyping, function overloading, and how to write the reference variables. What is meant by default, what are the object characteristics of object-oriented programming, all those things, right? So one second, let me just share one second. Yeah. So if you see the syllabus, so we have seen what is the review of structures, procedure-oriented programming system, object-oriented, comparison of object-oriented with C, console IO, variables and reference variables, function prototyping, function overloading. So we completed till this. After this, we'll study about inline functions. That is also very important. Then we'll go to the classes and objects. So as I said, textbooks are available, PDFs also available. You can download it. So these are the concepts you need to study from chapter 1, 1.1 to 1.9, chapter 2, 2.1 to 2.3. Reference textbook, if you want to go, you can go for L1 and L2. Right? But I suggest, as I said in the first class itself, this is the one book you just keep with you till the completion of your engineering. Don't think if I buy this one, it's be a waste. No, it is very useful for your placements also. Herbert Shield, Java, the complete reference. Or someone want to get into like what you call MS. I want to go for MS. So want to learn much about this. I want to work on advanced Java, all those things. Then there is a book called Java by Dytel and Dytel. So you can take the Dytel and Dytel also. That is also one of the best book what we have in the market. Fine. So no questions. Probably we'll stop here. We'll meet in the